My name is Kim Wells. I'm Director of Training and Research at Caterham School, which is a school in Surrey in the UK. And I am an accredited ICF coach. And I have been working with Tracy for well over a decade now. And we spent much of our time embedding coaching into my school and now into other schools as well.
My name is Tracy Sinclair and I am an executive coach, and I also run a coaching organisation called Coach Advancement, which provides coaching consultancy within organisations across the spectrum of the public and the private and the non-for-profit and charitable sectors. And I also train coaches to their professional qualifications with the International Coaching Federation. And in a past life, I also worked as a teacher, teaching English and Spanish in schools in both the UK and Spain. And I have the great privilege of knowing Kim, primarily because he is an educator at the school that my children attended, but also because we connected in the capacity of coaching, which ignited Kim's interest in coaching, and he subsequently trained as a coach. And as a result of that relationship, he and I have been working together for over a decade now, I think it is, really looking at different ways to bring coaching into primarily the school that he works in, Caterham School, and also beyond into other educational institutions. And that includes working with parents around their coaching skills from a parental perspective. It includes working with leaders and educators within the school, as well as with the students themselves.
So the Coaching for Educators program was born out of a slight sort of hole in the training offered to teachers. Quite a few teachers undertake 1 or 2 days of coaching training with me. And the question I'm asked most often at the end is, what next? And it's quite a big jump to go from a 1 or a 2 day course with me coming into your school or doing a bespoke program for you, and then for you to do a full ICF accreditation. And there is ever growing demand for coaching training in education at the moment. Teachers and educational leaders love coaching, but we are very time poor as a profession. So having that flexibility to offer something that is very meaningful, very deep, and could count towards getting an ICF credential, but not having to go through the full program straight away, is really a perfect in-between stage.
What is really apparent is not just the need, but the opportunity for coaching in schools that is very much around bringing in a different style of leadership, but also a different style of teaching. Many schools, such as the school that Kim works at, are very innovative in thinking about new learning and education and teaching techniques. But very much across education, there are still some very traditional paradigms around teaching approaches and leadership approaches. And so the opportunity exists there, as well as it does in organisations, to have a different way of engaging students in their learning, a way that results in them having more ownership over their learning style and their learning journey, and also perhaps more accountability as they get older, because they are invited to take the initiative and to think about how they need to learn and how they want to learn and what they want to learn.
The course is made up of a 1 hour sort of kick-off session online when we just meet and we get to know each other a bit, so that when we meet for the first face-to-face day, we're kind of ready to get into some real deep diving into coaching and doing some practice in threes and some observing and so on as well. And the main body of the course is 3 face-to-face days. I know better than anyone how impossible it is for teachers to take 3 days off in a row. So we've deliberately spread those 3 days out so they happen roughly in an interval about a month to 6 weeks. And the beauty of that is you then have that great opportunity between the 3 face-to-face days to actually go away and practice your coaching. And we will pair you up with someone else on the course, so you've got a natural person for whom you can coach and be coached with. But also I think it's great because you have an opportunity to to play around with the skills, to try them out at school with some students and some other colleagues as well. And at the end of your third face-to-face day, you really are ready to take your coaching further in your schools.
The real benefits, we think, of the Coaching for Teachers and Educators program is that whilst it is a beautiful way of closing the gap, if you like, between a short 1 or 2 day program and a full ICF credential pathway, it is actually the first big step towards an ACC credential pathway. So the program that we offer is in itself, on the one hand, an enormously valuable standalone program that would equip any teacher or educator to go back into their school and add a lot more value around their coaching skills confidently and independently. However, if that particular individual would like to keep going, then that module that we teach is the first part of a 3-stage education program that culminates in the first part, if you like, of an ACC pathway with the ICF. And it's very feasible to keep going with that and establish and secure your ICF ACC credential at the end.
And in terms of impact, well, the first cohort has now gone through. And for some of them, it's about them being on a pathway to getting their full credential. And in fact, one of our alumni is actually going to go on and change career, is going to segue into coaching as a career change. And then some of our other participants, they're just going to go back to their school and become a center of excellence in their school. They're going to carry on coaching themselves, but also they'll be in a position, having done this program, to deliver ongoing training, even to help supervise other colleagues who'll be taking their first steps into coaching, and to offer some bespoke in-house training sessions. So really, this program is about giving people a combination of skills and the sort of self-confidence and the ability to embed a coaching culture within their school. And that's for teachers and colleagues, obviously, but also for students, and also potentially to share some of that work with parents as well. So I think one of the reasons this course is so special is that collaborating with Tracy, we bring our areas of experience and expertise together to create a program that really is quite unique. So Tracy has experience of teaching, but she is, of course, a highly renowned and very experienced coach herself, and is hugely experienced at delivering coaching programs. So she has an enormous knowledge and ability to share that knowledge that comes across in her programs. I've got nearly 3 decades experience in the classroom, and I've got 20 years experience of delivering initiatives at whole school level, but also I'm a credential coach, so I can understand the power of fusing the two things together.
The potential for coaching in education is really significant, actually, because it goes beyond education. Education is the very early part of the formation of an individual, who then goes on to higher education, of course, but also then into the workplace. Imagine students entering the workplace having not only been coached, perhaps quite consistently across their school career, but also having gained insight to some initial and maybe even more than initial coaching skills. For me, that has a fundamental transformation into leadership. And we know from many statistics, leadership is coming to people far earlier than it did before. Styles of leadership and expectations of leaders is very different now to what it was even 5 years ago, let alone 10 or 15 years ago. And coaching is a fundamental part of how people will communicate and need to communicate into the future across all forms of society. So where better to start than in those early years? And if we have young people growing up with this additional string to their bow and the benefits of having been encouraged to think for themselves, to think more laterally, to think more creatively, to think outside the box, then how can that not be beneficial to any workplace and therefore to society, and of course every other relationship that they have beyond their work?
The potential of coaching in the field of education is unlimited, really. So obviously we have the potential for it being helpful for the development of colleagues and for leaders in school for their direct reports. But schools are much more than just collections of teachers. There are also professional services staff in schools who would also hugely benefit from working in an organisation with an embedded coaching culture. Secondly, we have students, and in the now, coaching is a brilliant tool to add to the repertoire of people who are supporting and helping young people to grow in schools. The first port of call would be the classroom. So using the coaching style, using silence, using better questioning to improve your pedagogy. In pastoral care, so one-to-one sessions with students for whom you're a tutor, just moving beyond being a mentor and helping students to grow themselves and giving them the self-awareness and the resilience to self-solve. And out there on the sports pitch or on stage, having a way of challenging and supporting in a way that will make them better performers. And then finally, with the parent body, how as educators we might help our parents to help their children become more self-aware and become more resilient by adding a few simple coaching skills and hacks to the way that they bring up their own children.
I would highly recommend coaching skills training to any educator in the way that I would recommend it to any professional, to be honest. However, specifically within education, given some of the benefits that we've already explored here, I would say that it supports the teacher in terms of engaging their class, inspiring their class, animating their class, and supporting their class to be independent thinkers. And it also enhances their direct feedback of making a really positive impact. And we know that coaching is highly developmental. It's also immensely empowering and supports people in their confidence. We know from statistics in research that even if confidence was not a direct goal in a coaching engagement, it comes out as a beautiful byproduct that people feel more solid, more grounded, more confident in their thinking, in their rationale, in their decisions, in their choices. So apart from equipping an educator with another very valuable string to their bow as a contributor in their profession, I also think that it's going to add an enormous element of personal fulfillment in just the direct impact that they can amplify in terms of how they support young people. The fact that, as we know from research, one of the biggest risks to the profession of coaching is having people who are not formally trained. And what we're seeking to provide here is not just formal training, but training that has been accredited by the world's largest professional body for coaching, and one which comes with a qualification, or as we call it, a credential in coaching, that is viewed to be the world's gold standard. So there's something here also that any educator doing this kind of training with us particularly is going to know that it is credible, it is ethical, it has integrity, it's gone through rigorous design criteria, and meets very strong academic standards when it comes to coaching and coaching psychology.
I think there's huge commonality between what the ICF stands for and what education stands for. There's rigorous assessment. Everything you do within ICF training is evidence-based. It's been thoroughly reviewed, it's competency based, and there's a really strong code of ethics that runs through everything. Education has similarly very high standards of accountability. And therefore, I think if a teacher's looking out to train up in coaching, then we really should be looking for programs that have gone through that sort of rigor that we are used to in every other field we operate in within education. My other encouragement to go and get trained as a teacher in coaching is that as educators, our job isn't really to prepare students for exams. Our job is to prepare young people for their futures. And to do that, we need to give them skills for jobs that don't exist yet. So what do? Well, we coach them because we can help develop their emotional intelligence. We can develop leadership skills and self-leadership skills from an early age. And that's what will give them that ability to transition between multiple jobs and probably multiple careers as well.
I think you get so much out of it, not only in terms of building your own skills to be more of an effective coach, but in terms of your own self-awareness, how you tend to kind of view the world. You get so much out of it from that point of view because you coach each other. So you're not only practicing coaching skills and practicing all those incredibly important things about being in the moment, you become more aware of your own personal biases, your unconscious biases. That's a big part of actually being coached as well. And also being a coach, Tracy and Kim are absolutely fantastic in helping you to kind of uncover that and be more aware of that. And then how does that impact on sorts of questions that you tend to ask? What's going on in your mind when you're coaching somebody and they might come back to you and they might say something. And our brains are very, very quick to kind of form a judgment or to make assumptions. And actually the power of their course in particular, it's called the Science and Art of Coaching, which I think is beautiful, actually, because it isn't just about a framework. It isn't just about a process and, implementing that. It's as much about your own self-awareness and understanding yourself within that. So things like uncovering your biases, being really conscious of when that's likely to happen, in what situations, what will trigger your brain to start going into judgment mode or into making assumptions, and then being able to pull yourself back. So that's what I mean by building self-awareness in you as the coach, as well as if you are being coached. I think their course is terrific in terms of the balance of that. So I'd really highly recommend it. It's one thing finding out about the GROW model and, for example, using that as a framework, as a kind of process, if you like, as a methodology, but it's everything underneath that. You as a human being are the medium through which you're applying a coaching model. So you have to be aware of your kind of intrinsic biases, your unconscious biases, and how is that playing out in your role as coach. And that's what the course gives you.
I think what I love about it, it's really to the point. It's framed really well with an understanding. It's well organized. You know what you're getting. And I felt complete confidence in both Tracy and Kim's, not just their delivery, which was really lovely, and the organization around that, but I felt really confident in their experience and in their knowledge and in their own training. So I felt that I was getting something from the best, if I'm honest. And that was validated through some of the things that they talked about, and also their experiences and their qualifications, and the International Coaching Federation, the whole kind of framework there was real rigor about it. And there was a sense of accountability of, okay, well, if you're going to go forward, you need to be doing these things. And for me, and for them, they were talking about, the importance of practice. It's all very well. And I feel like I came into this, with reams and reams of books that I've read and kind of head knowledge. But until I sat in there watching a role play, and then bam, you do a role play. And the more we did it, the more confident you become, and the more kind of aware of maybe some of your idiosyncrasies or the language you're using, the manner in which you're coming across. All of those things are just it's so practical. The course is so practical. It's well structured. I found it really helpful that we had a face-to-face, an online and a face-to-face, opportunities if we wanted to coach side by side, have a walk, lots of different ways that we could engage with coaching. I found really helpful. But yeah, I have already recommended 2 members of my staff to join the team.